You know that it sounds weird, right? Suck some helium out of a balloon or what? Did Did you suck some helium out of a balloon or what? Do you have it on some setting? Are there settings? I didn't even know there were settings like that. How does Chip know that? I cannot understand you. We know that your name is Chip, but you're not a chipmunk. I'm gonna call him.
Shut that door. That's it's fraud.
Better to just not take the money if I don't know what I'm doing?
No, what the thing is, if you take the money and you don't spend it, then there's no.
(4:15), and I'm going to call the August 20th, 2020 Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please, Brandy?
Yes. Culhane.
Present.
Hanson.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Spire.
Here.
Kays.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
And then Dolly and Oletsky are absent. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Item 3 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from August 6th. Has anybody had a chance to review those minutes?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
I would second.
Motion by Brink, second by Dargis Johnson. Roll call, right, Brandy? Or not?
Well, we do have a quorum in person. So if we don't want to,
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 4 is the regular agenda. Item 4A on the regular agenda is consideration of conditional use request in the C3 Highway Commercial District for apartments on the property located at 1638 13th Avenue Southeast. Take it away, Brandy.
okay, thank you, Liam. So I'll pull up the information here that we're looking at today. Like Liam had said, the applicant seeks conditional use approval for apartments to be located in the C3 Highway Commercial District, contingent upon the compliance of A through H. So basically, what we have here is a contractor shop existing, and I'll pull it up on GIS so you guys have an idea of where this is proximity-wise. Okay, so this area over here, just southeast of Hy-Vee, just north of the softball complex. So,
Mr. Chair, Brandon, can you share your screen?
oh, yep. Thanks, Todd. I'll go there. Okay. So this is the property that we're looking at here on the corner of 13th and 17th Street Southeast. And like I said, so this exists as contractor shops today. What the applicant is proposing is to have the north portion remain, so the south 32 feet of this existing shop will be converted to an apartment, and the north 64 feet will remain as a contractor shop. This is similar to the requests that we get in the I-1 district, the light industrial, for caretakers residents. So, and obviously there will be certain fire suppression requirements that they'll have to meet and work with CHIP on if this conditional use is granted. So with that, I think I'll just open it up to questions.
Does the board have any questions before we open the public hearing? With that, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak on behalf of or against this item?
Chip, Fire Marshal. I just want to point out it's a living quarters. I met with this individual today, and I looked at what he's doing, and it's a separate shop area, and it'll meet, if he wants to do this, he'll meet all the fire requirements that we're putting on board. And I've had other questions, just so the board knows. There's several other on the plate coming up that people are looking to do this. And I just want to let you know that what I've been working with, and I've got a list of things that they have to follow through to meet all the fire code stuff. So, but we should call them living quarters, not apartments. So,
Chip, so in this, I guess in the future, are you going to require sprinkler then for these living quarters, or what's? I guess give us some background on what you're going to require.
okay, so basically with when a building's in the commercial code, the IBC, and then you add a residence to it, any R occupancy, the entire building has to be sprinkled. And then what we're also doing is we're requiring signage on the door, the walk-in door if it's a residence, saying residence, and then it's got to meet all the fire separation, smoke alarms, fire alarm, and things like that. So.
Chip, are you finding that these are one-bedroom units, or are they going to be multiple bedroom situations?
Well, that's a question. This one's going to be, I guess we never got into that, but the ones I've talked to, they're 2-bedroom, but there's also going to have to require an egress window installed in these bedrooms too. So, but this one, I guess the ones I've talked with, it's up in the air, 1 or 2 bedrooms. And then also, they have to have an exit door that cannot go through the shop area. It has to have an independent exit going to the outside for egress purposes. It can't go through a garage for egress.
Chip, is this all listed, everything that you're rattling off, is that listed in the IBC, or where do we find that?
That's in the IBC and the IFC, International Fire Code, International Building Code.
And then in the future, is this gonna be a ground floor apartment, or will this be a second? I mean, I assume they'd have to have a fire escape as well, or a second means to get,
Right, well, he didn't talk about this, but I do know another individual that we're working with at the fire department. They're talking about a loft area in these units, and some will be ground, but they might do an upper floor, but it's required to have a separation with sheetrock from smoke and other things. So we are covering the whole gamut of fire protection through the IFC and the IBC code. It's going around. Rapid City's been allowing this, and Sioux Falls also has a few of them, but it's just something that's coming on the plate, and it's something the board's got to think about and make decisions on, but there's more to come. I'm just letting you know that.
And so really how we describe them, in our ordinance, we have apartments as the conditional use for the C3 district. And then, like Chip said, it should be called living quarters. But then when you look at the definition of apartments, it says dwelling unit. So then it covers all dwelling units, basically. And then that inconsistency comes with the language then in the I-1 of the caretaker's residence. So really it would be a matter, and we could probably even just create an ordinance and have all those limitations spelled out. Right now though, before they would ever be, so you guys would be determining if the land was suitable for this type of use, and then before they would get the permit for the actual, to make the changes, we would make sure that it was following code.
Brandy, quick question. This is Case. If it's a single bedroom, then we're talking it needs 2 off-street parking spaces for the apartment.
Yep.
And then with the remainder of the building area, the shop area, is there sufficient off-street parking with this location?
Yes.
And then the other question that, we have apartments in the C3 district. These uses here that are in the C3 are more akin to probably lighter industrial uses in the C3 area. If we were to kind of categorize the use, would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, except it is zone C3.
I'm understanding, but if by looking at the type of the buildings and the types of
Yeah.
uses that are on in there, they're more akin to an industrial type of use, either shop, warehouse, manufacturing facility, what have you.
Yep.
And so if we were to allow this apartment to be there, would it have to be only the person that works there, lives there, or could they turn around and decide to rent that out later at a later date to somebody else?
I think that, the caretaker's residence is explicit that it is somebody that owns or works at the business. The apartment, though, they really could. But, that's kind of getting into the fact that we need occupancy permits and change of use.
Well, that's my point, is if we turn around and this gentleman wants to live in the home, live in this, and because he's working there, but situations change 3 months, 6 months, 2 years from now, and it could be turned into, does he have the capability of making it into a 2-bedroom apartment? Because we don't have any requirements on the size of the bedrooms, do we?
No.
So he could theoretically have 4 people living in this facility, not just himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess to me that's my biggest concern when we start talking about allowing quote apartments as opposed to caretaker type residences in a C3 zone district that's more of an industrial use based existing use. And so I do have, without having some more definitive policy, and if we have more of these things coming before us, maybe the prudent approach would be to take a look back and figure out how we want to handle this as opposed to opening the barn door at this point. Just my thoughts.
I think as far as if there would be additional rooms added to, right now he's proposing to have 3 bedrooms And that's just, and he didn't even expect that they would be used as bedrooms because you can use a room for whatever really function you want. So, but if they were coming in and had to get permits for any remodeling in the interior or whatnot, we could maybe check it or track it that way. And then if they weren't meeting the off-street parking requirements at that time, but you can see that they do have quite a bit of paved area that could accommodate parking. And
And I think this situation it does, but I'm looking at the one right next door to it and the one next door to that. And if we open the floodgate, the other question is with a one bedroom apartment, what's the maximum number of individuals by family that can be living in there? Is it 3 unrelated adults?
yep,
So 2 bedrooms could theoretically be 6 unrelated adults. And so those are the bigger questions. And while I think, yeah, there's an avenue for asking permission for an apartment, I don't know if it's the prudent thing to do without actually thinking about the impact of the lack of policy and the type of use for this type of a structure.
But
Well,
oh, sorry, Brandy.
I think that being that, like you brought up the point of that it was zoned, that it seems light industrial in nature, then we do allow a caretaker's residence, and we have allowed those. So it's kind of, it's the bigger picture then of what you're getting at, is that what we should really be looking at.
And we do have that covered.
Caretaker's residence would connote that it's somebody that's working.
Gotcha.
But we
so
we
then
do
it's-
have it covered in the ordinance and in the fire code and the building code on what the building's used for and what safety precautions are required. We have parking requirements. All those things will come through at this time. And that's why I think we're okay not having a direct policy for this. We've got the stuff in the ordinance already because we have a policy, and then once we have all these policies and we change the ordinance and we change all the policies, it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time for staff to try to keep up on. We're just trying to bless the ground here. This person owns the entire building, and he wants a single-family residence that he's gonna move into.
Brandy, when this property was granted conditional use for a contractor shop, at that time, was that conditional use, was there a waiver of right to protest the improvements on 13th Avenue? Do you know?
Not for sure, but most likely, hopefully. And I don't know if so even if just for the building permit itself, there probably was a waiver of right to protest that should have been caught for the future improvements to 13th is what Brink is getting at there, if it would ever be improved to be curb and gutter. But if it was for the contractor shop, yeah, they would have also came in for conditional use. So
I
something I can-
just know when we've done other conditional uses on properties that are adjacent to streets that aren't fully developed, we've included that waiver of right to protest. And since this property had already went through that once, I was wondering if they had it, and if not, maybe we should at least consider it at this one.
right, I would say I would say both street and avenue for 17th Street and 13th Avenue, just include it to be safe. If that is part of the motion.
I guess my concern of I get the caretaker residence, 1 bedroom. I don't necessarily agree with the option to have 3 or 4 bedrooms in a situation like this. If we're going to have children living on these quarters instead of just a caretaker, now you're going to put children on their bikes in an area where they're not used to seeing children or looking for kids playing or riding bikes. I think I get 1 resident or 1 bedroom units, but I really have a problem with multiple bedroom units there. If you have 1 guy on site, snowstorm situations like that, I understand that, but making these into living quarters is a bit far for me, I guess.
The public hearing is still open. Is there anyone from the public, either physically present or somewhere out there in the interwebs, that wants to speak on behalf of or against this conditional use? Anyone at all? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain further discussion.
Mr. Chair, this is Kays again. Again, the other possible issue is that, you're talking about then planting a residence adjacent to an IT district, which is directly across the street. And again, an apartment, when I think of apartment, I think of a single structure with one or more dwelling units. And so I find this to be more of a caretaker's residence, more of a single family aspect to it, adjoining an industrial 2 zone, heavy industrial zone. It's not that I don't want to say yes to this. I think we're premature without looking at the greater impact.
I think in looking at the ordinance too, caretakers' residences are typically going to be in contractor shops, that's a conditional use of the C3 district. But then we didn't include caretakers' residence as a conditional use as well, which an I1 district is obviously more intrusive than C3. So I don't know too, and this Matt might be able to chime in, if you can make it explicit that it's an apartment that has to be owner occupied. Because even a caretaker's residence, say that the caretaker has kids or has nieces and nephews or, they could still potentially visit, but they could also visit a shop.
I understand that, but they're not finding entertainment there necessarily. And again, if you have a hired hand and you want him to live there, I don't know that we can regulate who's going to live there. I just would like to limit the number of bedrooms. When that person is a family man, maybe then it's just time he's not living in a caretaker's residence. I guess that's the only way to control not having a family living there.
Right. Matt, are you on? Is that something that they could make explicit in their motion if they chose to do so?
Can you restate the question, please?
So if they were say that they would grant the conditional use for apartments, can they limit that there only be 1 bedroom and 1 unit? Because it is a conditional use, so it's kind of a condition of, why it's okay.
Yeah, I guess off the top of my head, I can't think of any reason why they couldn't add that as a condition to the approval.
I'm going to push back just a little bit, but Mr. Roby, play the devil's advocate here. I mean, isn't the conditional use, isn't the purpose to bless the ground? I mean, we're not for a particular purpose. I mean, can we in good faith then say that, well, you can do it, but it's only 1 apartment interior or something like that? Most of our conditions seem to be sort of exterior related.
Well, I think you can have, this is Kays, I think the purpose of a conditional use permit is to allow for a specific use listed in the ordinance on a specific piece of dirt, granting the Board of Adjustment the ability to attach conditions that have a rational nexus to the request.
I mean, yeah, because it does fall, kind of falls into the general compatibility with adjacent properties and other properties in the district. So that they are zone C3, but they're more light industrial in nature. And that's to protect the neighborhood as well as the resident.
I anticipate whatever the decision is
Hey,
today.
Randy, this is Bill Spire, dialed in here. I just wanted to ask a question quickly. Is this zoned as a light industrial or C3? I just wanted to make sure I heard it correctly.
It is C3,
Identify yourself again.
Bill.
This is Bill Spire.
Bill, it is zone C3, Highway Commercial District. But we were just saying, where you're hearing the I1 is that this area is more I1 light industrial manufacturing district in nature. because it's contractor shops.
If I could just interject to that point, for whatever it's worth, I get the commissioner's point. I think maybe Commissioner Kays pointed that out. It is in fact zone C3 though, and just as a staff recommendation, I think we need to focus on what that underlying zoning district is, and then determine, if there is compatibility, not by referencing other zoning districts, but determine if there's compatibility on the uses around it within this C3 district. I think we get into a dangerous discussion when we start comparing it to the other zoning districts, which this one is not, but maybe rather focus on the uses around this C3 that are also approved or conditional uses within that C3.
Thank you, Heath. My concern is that what we decide today is likely going to have a dramatic impact on the next 2 or 3 requests. So I would like to get it right this time. Is the board inclined to do this as a general premise? That would be the question I'd pose to you guys. Or do we want to have apartments in the C3 when it looks like contractor shops? Does anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
I'll take a stab at the motion. I'll motion to approve the use of apartments, limiting it to 1 bedroom, and also requiring a waiver right to protest any improvements on 17th Avenue or 13th Street.
I'd second that.
Does that include sidewalks?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll say any public infrastructure improvements.
Thank you, Brandy.
We have a motion by Brink and a second by Dargits Johnson.
I guess another question, we limit it to 1 bedroom, that really doesn't stop a family or I guess how much longer can we?
3 unrelated individuals could still live there.
Again, I don't think we can control who lives there, but I just think by limiting the number of bedrooms, that just helps keep the possibility of it becoming a neighborhood of children. That's my concern, so.
And again, I guess I'm even, I guess I look at it, whatever. Maybe it's a group of OTEC kids you get, I know what the ordinance is, but that doesn't mean we aren't gonna have, 4 VOTEC kids living in there. May not be what we're really wanting. I think with Liam, you kind of want to get it right the first time.
And remind me again, Brandy, caretaker's residence is a conditional use in I-1, but not in C3 is what you're saying.
Right.
So the ordinance just doesn't allow for it. I would feel far more comfortable with a caretaker's residence, as my understanding of the definition is, than I would of just a general apartment. Again, I understand apartment is perhaps a misnomer, and the word we should be using is living quarters. But again, that denotes things like renting it out. Or it's one thing if the owner lives there and he's using it to, or the owner or the leasee of the entire property is living there, truck driver, whatever it is, somebody that's on that property. But it seems entirely different when we're then either it's potentially a commercial leasing issue, and then you end up with this whole, do we want to have families in a C3 bordering I-1 district with a bunch of contractor shops? So I guess that's it. Does anybody else have anything else to add?
Not to go down the rabbit hole, but when I look at the definition for caretaker's residence, in the definition, it says no home occupations will be allowed. I mean, if this were to be a caretaker's residence, which it can't as in a C3, but would that not be allowed anyway because they have a home occupation, or would it not be considered a home occupation as contractor shops?
Right. It would be like kind of a mixed use.
So this is Bill Spire from Dial In here.
Go ahead,
And
Bill.
so looking at the ordinance for C3, there are allowances in the language for conditional uses that are apartments, single-family residential, multifamily residential. So some of the arguments in my hearing about concerns for, the nature of use, the wording for the application was caretaker, which is a misapplication for the zoning, being a C3. However, C3 conditional uses as codified allow for some of the, things that are being expressed as concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner. I guess my point is that this particular area is not conducive to people living there. This doesn't seem like it makes sense. I could foresee a situation in which a C3 area would make sense for a caretaker's residence or apartments, but this one just doesn't seem like it makes sense. Anyways, further discussion. If anybody wants to say anything, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll call for a roll call. Brandy?
Ready? Okay. Colleen.
No.
Hanson.
No.
Brink.
No.
Dargis Johnson.
No.
Spire.
Yes.
Kays.
I'm going to state no, but for the record, I want to state my finding is that I don't believe the request is compatible with adjacent properties within the district.
Ford. Ford.
No.
Thank you. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 no's, 1 yes. Motion fails.
Thank you, Brandy. We'll move on to 4B, board consideration of variance request to the zoning ordinance requirements related to the proposed improvements on the property located at 1215 13th Street Northeast.
Okay, thank you, Liam. So this application was submitted, and here, let me get this stuff pulled up for you guys. Application was submitted to construct a detached garage conforming to the required setbacks and requirements of the district, which is zoned R1, single-family residential. But they're proposing 12-foot sidewalls when the maximum sidewall height for the accessory structure in the R1 district is 10 foot 2 inches. So that's the variance request. They'll conform to all other requirements of the ordinance. The only thing is that they want to build the garage to have 12-foot sidewalls instead of the 10-foot 2. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Bill, would you mute your mic when you're not talking? It sounds like a truck stop.
It's not me.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. Whoever's standing near a highway or truck stop, would you mute your mic? Thank you, Brandy. Any questions from the board before I open the public hearing?
This property shows a second driveway and curb cut. Does the engineering staff have any issues with a second curb cut at this location?
Well, with their lot width, will make sure that they conform to the engineering design standards.
Yeah, and one of those being to preserve at least a 20-foot space along the lot frontage for on-street parking capabilities in the neighborhood. But aside from that, it appears as though this would be approvable based on the engineering design standards.
Any other questions? With that, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak on behalf of or against the variance application? Do we have a microphone for this man?
Is that, well, do we need it? No? Okay, I guess it's not even turned on, so probably.
I'm the owner, Dan Gable.
Would you say that again, Mr. Gable?
I am Dan Gable, the owner of the property. And because of the design of our lot, there's only one location on the lot where we can meet all of the setback requirements, which we can meet, and we can meet the maximum height requirement as well. But I would like to be able to park my RV off the driveway and make the neighborhood look better this way. So I need to have a 12-foot high garage in order to get the RV in. So that's why we're applying for a variance.
Thank you, Mr. Gable. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gable?
Brandy, could you bring up the aerial, please?
While you're doing that, Brandy, Mr. Gable, have you talked to your neighbors to the west and to the south? Have they have any issues with the proposed height of your structure?
No, they don't. We've met the neighbors, and certified letters were sent to all of the neighbors.
Brandy, did anybody respond to the certified letters?
No, I did not.
And it looks like there's screening on both the south and the west side there.
Yeah, there is a fence there. And the plan is that we're going to match the siding on the house with the garage, and so it should fit in nicely in the neighborhood.
Brandy, do you happen to know the height of the principal structure?
Is it a two-story house?
It is
Okay.
a 4-level house, and it is much higher than the garage would be.
4 levels if you,
And the only thing that, assuming we were to pass this, the only thing we'd be variancing is the sidewall height.
That's correct.
No setbacks, no
No.
overall height.
No, we planned it so we can meet the easement setbacks, the setbacks from the sidewalks, and on the plot plan, that is the only place where I can accomplish that because of the shape of the property on the corner there.
Is there anyone else to speak on behalf of or against this variance request? Is there anyone in the interwebs that wants to say anything?
I told them to talk to all the neighbors.
We got it. We got it in the record that the neighbors were notified. With that, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, this is Kays. I would move to vote to pass the variance as requested.
Motion by Kays. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
This is Bill Snyder. I'll second that.
Second by Brink. You're a little slow, Bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Brandy?
Ford,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes?
Spire,
Yes.
Jargus Johnson,
No.
Brink,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
6-1.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Rhonda.
Item number 5 on the agenda is open public comment. Would anybody like to speak about anything that didn't appear on the agenda? Anybody out there want to speak about anything? Okay, item number 6, new business. Do we have any new business, Brandy?
Unless, do you want to give a formal introduction to Stacy? Or has that? This is new business. Oh, okay. We're going to wait for Plan Commission.
No new business. Number 7, old business. Is there any old business, Brandy?
None that I have.
Sounds good. Number 8, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Dargis Johnson, second by Hanson. We have a quorum here, so I'm gonna just do a roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We are adjourned.
That
Take
was-
about a 5-minute break and we'll come back for the planning commission.
That was not a roll call vote.